There is a power within you that does not respond to force, struggle, or endless effort. It responds to feeling. Most people spend their lives trying to change the outer world without ever touching the inner cause. They wait for proof before they believe. They wait for results before they allow themselves to feel successful, loved, secure, or fulfilled. But the truth is the complete opposite. The feeling comes first, the world comes second. You have been taught to live by appearances. If the bank account is empty, you feel poor. If no one calls you, you feel forgotten. If the opportunity has not appeared, you feel stuck. But appearances are only shadows of past assumptions. They are delayed reflections of old feelings held long enough to harden into fact. The moment you understand this, you stop worshipping circumstances and begin shaping them. So I will teach you how to feel it. Not tomorrow, not after the manifestation appears, right now. Because feeling is the secret movement of creation. When you enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are no longer hoping. You are no longer begging life to change. You are becoming inwardly identified with the reality you desire. And life has no choice but to mirror the identity you consistently accept as true. People misunderstand feeling. They think it means emotional excitement. They think they must force themselves into overwhelming happiness every second of the day. But that is not what creates. Feeling is acceptance. Feeling is inner knowing. Feeling is the quiet naturalness of already being the person you wish to become. Think about your name. You do not wake up every morning emotionally excited about it, yet it feels natural to you. You accept it without effort. That is the kind of feeling you must cultivate toward your desire. Not frantic wishing, not desperate longing, calm ownership. If you desire wealth, stop feeling like someone chasing money. Feel like someone who is already supported by life. If you desire love, stop feeling abandoned and incomplete. Feel chosen. Feel valued. If you desire success, stop rehearsing failure in your imagination. Feel accomplished now. Your imagination is not fantasy. It is the workshop of reality. Every night before sleep, the mind becomes receptive. In that quiet state, close your eyes and enter a simple scene that would imply your desire is already fulfilled. Do not wait. TCH yourself from a distance. Become present within the experience. Hear the voices. Feel the atmosphere. Touch the reality of it. If you desire a new home, feel the keys in your hand. If you desire recognition, hear congratulations spoken to you. If you desire peace, feel the relief of knowing everything has already worked out. Do not force it. Relax into it. The deeper you feel the naturalness of the experience, the faster it impresses itself upon your subconscious mind. And once impressed, it begins organizing reality around that inner conviction. Most people fail because they keep checking the outer world for confirmation. The moment circumstances seem opposite, fear returns. Doubt returns. They abandon the state before it has time to unfold. But you must understand something important. Creation is finished internally before it becomes visible externally. The seed does not become a tree overnight. Yet the moment it enters the soil, the process has already begun. Your feeling is the seed. Do not dig it up every day with worry and impatience. Many people say, "But how can I feel wealthy when I have bills? How can I feel loved when I am alone?" You do it by understanding that image. Ination is more real than temporary appearances. The outer world is always changing. The inner world is the true cause. If you continue reacting emotionally to present conditions, you continue recreating them. But if you dare to feel beyond them, you interrupt the old pattern and establish a new one. This is why some people transform their lives while others remain trapped for years. One continues worshipping facts. The other begins creating from consciousness. You are not asked to deny reality. You are asked to stop accepting limitation as permanent truth. There is something miraculous that happens when you persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. At first it feels unfamiliar. Then it becomes comfortable. Then it becomes natural. Finally it becomes your identity. And once it becomes your identity, the world rearranges itself to match it. Opportunities appear unexpectedly. People respond differently to you. Ideas arrive at the perfect moment. Doors begin opening where none existed before. What once felt impossible starts feeling inevitable. But it all begins within. The world can only echo the song you are singing internally. So stop singing songs of fear. Stop repeating stories. 3. Examples of failure. Stop identifying with disappointment. Every time you say nothing works for me, you strengthen that assumption. Every time you say life supports me, you plant a new seed. Words matter because they carry feeling. Inner conversations matter because they shape identity. You become what you emotionally rehearse. If you spend every day imagining rejection, you will feel rejected before anyone rejects you. If you spend every day imagining success, confidence begins growing before success visibly appears. The feeling always comes first. This is why imagination must become a daily discipline. Not occasionally, not only when you are desperate, daily. Train yourself to return to the state you desire. When fear appears, replace it with the feeling of certainty. When doubt appears, return to the inner scene of fulfillment. When anxiety appears, remind yourself that the unseen is already moving into form. Do not underestimate the power of persistence. A weak assumption repeated often becomes a powerful reality. You do not need permission from the world to feel fulfilled now. You do not need evidence to begin embodying the person you want to become. You only need willingness. 3. The moment you claim the feeling inwardly, the process begins. And remember this carefully. The subconscious mind does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you feel to be true. So if you constantly feel unworthy, life reflects struggle. If you constantly feel abandoned, life reflects separation. But if you begin feeling blessed, chosen, secure, capable, and loved, life must eventually mirror those states back to you. Feeling is not escaping reality. Feeling is selecting reality. Tonight, before you sleep, stop thinking about what is missing. Stop replaying problems. Enter the feeling of your fulfilled desire. Let your mind rest there gently. Fall asleep as the version of yourself who already has what you seek. Feeling is the hidden force behind every experience you call reality. Long before something appears in the outer world, it is first accepted emotionally within the inner world of consciousness. Most people believe their life is shaped by luck, circumstances, or the actions of others. But the deeper truth is that life moves according to the feelings you repeatedly entertain and accept as true. You do not attract what you occasionally think about. You attract what you inwardly feel yourself to be. A man may speak words of confidence while secretly feeling inadequate, and life will respond not to his words but to his feeling. Another may possess very little in the present moment, yet feel inwardly secure, abundant, and supported. And gradually his outer world begins reflecting that inner certainty. The feeling is always the cause. The visible world is always the effect. This is why struggle alone changes nothing. Effort without inner transformation only repeats old results. You can work harder, chase faster, and force action endlessly, but if the feeling within remains unchanged, life continues presenting the same patterns in different forms. The outer world cannot permanently contradict the emotional identity you carry inside yourself. Look carefully at your own life, and you will notice this law operating everywhere. The person who feels unwanted often encounters rejection repeatedly. The person who feels unlucky continues finding obstacles in every direction. The person who feels successful begins noticing opportunities, support, and progress almost naturally. It is not coincidence. It is the mirror of consciousness. Many people understand what feeling truly means. They think they must create extreme emotions or artificial excitement. But feeling is much deeper and quieter than emotional intensity. Feeling is the sense of naturalness. It is the silent conviction that something is already yours inwardly. It is the calm acceptance of a new state of being. Think about the things you already possess in life. You do not constantly become excited over your own name or your home or familiar relationships because they feel natural to you. You accept them without effort. In the same way, the secret is to make your desired reality feel natural inwardly before it appears outwardly. If you desire success, begin feeling like a successful person now, not arrogant, not pretending before others, but inwardly accepting that you are capable, valuable, and destined to prosper. If you desire love, begin feeling loved now. Feel worthy of affection and connection before anyone arrives to confirm it. If you desire peace, stop rehearsing anxiety internally and begin returning to the feeling that everything is unfolding perfectly for you. The world responds to identity more than desire. Most people remain trapped because they continue emotionally identifying with their present conditions. They look at temporary appearances and allow those appearances to determine how they feel. If money is low, they feel defeated. If delays appear, they feel discouraged. If someone disappoints them, they feel abandoned. In doing so, they unknowingly continue feeding the same emotional state that produced those experiences in the first place. But the moment you understand that feeling creates reality, everything changes. You stop asking the world for permission to feel fulfilled. You begin generating fulfillment from within. You stop waiting for circumstances to change first. Instead, you change inwardly and allow circumstances to follow. This requires discipline because the outer world often appears solid and convincing. It tries to persuade you that visible facts are final. But visible facts are only the delayed expression of previous states of consciousness. They are shadows of old feelings and assumptions. If you continue reacting emotionally to those shadows, you keep recreating them. Instead, you must learn to remain faithful to the new feeling even when external evidence has not yet appeared. This is where true transformation begins. A person who masters feeling does not become controlled by temporary appearances. They understand that reality unfolds from within outwardly. So rather than surrendering to fear, they return again and again to the emotional state they wish to experience. At night before sleep, when the mind becomes quiet and impressionable, enter the feeling of your fulfilled desire. Imagine a short scene that would naturally occur if your wish were already realized. Feel the reality of it. Hear the voices. Experience the relief, gratitude, and certainty of already being the person you desire to become. Do not force the scene mechanically. Allow yourself to sink emotionally into its atmosphere until it feels real and familiar. The subconscious mind accepts what is repeatedly felt, and once accepted, it begins expressing that state through the conditions of life. This is why persistence matters more than intensity. A gentle feeling repeated consistently impresses the subconscious more deeply than occasional emotional bursts. The goal is not emotional exhaustion. The goal is inner conviction. Every day you are planting emotional seeds through your reactions, assumptions, and inner conversations. If you constantly feel worried, you plant seeds of struggle. If you constantly feel grateful and secure, you plant seeds of harmony and success. Life faithfully grows whatever you nurture internally. You must become aware of the feelings you entertain throughout the day. Notice how often fear, doubt, anger, or insecurity quietly dominate the mind. Then consciously replace those states with the feeling you wish to experience instead. This is not denial. It is creation. You are choosing the emotional atmosphere from which your future will emerge. The greatest secret is that you do not need to wait for the world to change before you feel differently. You can choose a new feeling now. You can embody peace before conditions improve. You can embody abundance before money arrives. You can embody confidence before recognition appears. And when the feeling changes consistently within you, reality eventually reorganizes itself around that new state. Because feeling is not merely an emotion. Feeling is the creative power that shapes the entire experience of your life. The subconscious mind is always listening. It does not sleep when your body sleeps, and it does. Not argue with the impressions you repeatedly give it. It accepts what feels true to you and quietly works to express those inner beliefs into visible experience. This is why your life often reflects your deepest assumptions rather than your surface level wishes. You may consciously desire success, love, health, or abundance, but if your inner feeling remains rooted in fear, limitation, or unworthiness, the subconscious continues producing experiences that match those deeper emotional convictions. The subconscious mind does not respond to empty words. It does not respond to desperate begging or forced affirmations spoken without belief. It responds to feeling because feeling carries the sense of reality. Whatever you emotionally accept as true becomes the blueprint from which your life is shaped. A person may repeat the words, "I am successful," 100 times each day, but if inwardly they still feel like a failure, the subconscious accepts the feeling rather than the statement. Another person may speak very little about success, yet inwardly feel confident, capable, and certain of their value. And life gradually organizes itself around that assumption. The subconscious always S follows the emotional state that feels most natural and believable to you. This is why many people struggle to change their lives. They attempt to change circumstances without changing identity. They focus only on outer action while continuing to carry the same inner emotional patterns. But the subconscious does not create from occasional thoughts. It creates from dominant feelings and repeated assumptions. Your subconscious mind is like fertile soil. It does not judge the seed placed within it. Whether the seed is fear or confidence, lack or abundance, love or loneliness, it accepts the impression and begins producing corresponding results. If you constantly feel rejected, the subconscious treats rejection as reality and guides your perceptions, behaviors, and experiences accordingly. If you consistently feel valued and supported, it begins leading you toward experiences that reflect those states instead. Most people are unaware of how deeply their feelings shape their reality because these feelings become habitual. They wake up each day rehearsing the same emotional story. They remember past disappointments, anticipate future problems, and emotionally relive fear so often that at the subconscious accepts struggle as normal. Then they wonder why life keeps repeating the same patterns. But the moment you understand this principle, you gain the power to transform your life from within. The subconscious mind can only express what has been impressed upon it emotionally. It cannot distinguish between an experience vividly imagined with feeling and an experience physically lived. This is why imagination is so powerful. When you imagine something with emotional conviction, the subconscious begins accepting that imagined state as real. If every night before sleep you enter the feeling of already being successful, loved, peaceful, or prosperous, the subconscious slowly adopts that emotional identity as truth. Over time, your reactions change, your confidence changes, your choices change, and eventually your outer circumstances begin changing as well. The key is emotional acceptance, not wishing, not forcing, acceptance. The subconscious responds when the desired state begins to feel natural to you. Think about how naturally you accept your current identity. You do not need to remind yourself of your name repeatedly because it already feels true. In the Me way, the goal is to make your desired reality feel familiar within your consciousness. When abundance feels natural, you stop thinking like a person trapped in lack. When love feels natural, you stop expecting abandonment. When success feels natural, you stop preparing for failure. The subconscious faithfully reflects the emotional atmosphere you maintain internally. This is why fear must be understood carefully. Fear is not simply a passing emotion. Fear becomes creative when it is repeatedly accepted as reality. Many people unintentionally impress fearful outcomes upon the subconscious by constantly imagining worst-case scenarios, worrying about the future, and emotionally identifying with failure before anything even happens. Then, when those fears materialize in some form, they believe life is against them, never realizing they have been feeding those possibilities emotionally for weeks, months, or even years. But this same power can work in your favor. Imagine beginning each day with the feeling that life supports you. Imagine carrying the quiet certainty that opportunities are unfolding, that your future is improving, that you are worthy of love, success, and peace. At 3. First, the outer world may not immediately reflect it. Old conditions may still appear for a time because they are echoes of past assumptions. But if you persist in the new feeling, the subconscious eventually accepts it as the dominant reality. And once accepted, life begins rearranging itself. People enter your life unexpectedly. New ideas arise. Doors open. Coincidences increase. You begin behaving differently without force because your inner identity has shifted. What once felt impossible begins feeling normal. The subconscious is always moving you toward whatever state you emotionally believe to be true. This is why guarding your inner conversations matters so much. Every time you internally say, "Nothing ever works for me," the subconscious receives that impression. Every time you emotionally dwell on disappointment, it strengthens that pattern. But when you begin saying inwardly, "Everything is unfolding perfectly," and truly allow yourself to feel its reality, you plant a different seed. The subconscious does not care whether the feeling is positive or negative. It only responds to repetition and emotional conviction. Therefore, your responsibility is not merely to nurturing thoughts occasionally, but to consciously choose the emotional state you live from daily. You must stop treating external conditions as the source of your feelings. External conditions are effects, not causes. The cause is always within. Once you understand this, you stop becoming emotionally controlled by appearances. Instead, you begin deliberately selecting the feelings you wish to experience regardless of present circumstances. This is not pretending. It is creation from consciousness. Your future is not being shaped only by actions. It is being shaped by the emotional truths your subconscious accepts every single day. So choose carefully what you feel real, because whatever the subconscious accepts as truth, life eventually reflects back to you in visible form. To assume the feeling of already having your desire fulfilled is to step beyond hope and enter the state of possession inwardly. Most people live in a constant state of wanting. They desire success, love, health, peace, or abundance. But they continue emotionally identifying as people who do not yet have these things. They wake up each day aware of absence. They think from lack instead of fulfillment. And because AW's consciousness continuously reproduces itself, they remain trapped in the same cycle of waiting. The secret is not in wanting more intensely. The secret is in feeling as though the desire has already become reality within you. The moment you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, something profound begins to change. Your mind stops chasing. Your emotions stop begging. Your inner world shifts from longing to acceptance. Instead of saying, "I hope this happens someday," you begin inwardly declaring, "It is already mine." And that inner acceptance becomes the seed from which physical reality eventually grows. Most people misunderstand this principle because they believe fulfillment must come after visible proof. They think they must first receive the money before they feel abundant, first receive love before they feel chosen, or first achieve success before they feel accomplished. But the law works in the opposite direction. Feeling precedes manifestation. The inner state comes first. The outer world follows afterward. Think about a person who constantly says they want wealth, yet every day they feel worried, limited, and defeated by finances. Their dominant emotional state is not abundance, it is lack. Even though they consciously desire prosperity, they continue nourishing the feeling of not having enough. The subconscious mind accepts the emotional truth rather than the spoken wish, and life continues reflecting scarcity. Now imagine another person with modest circumstances who begins feeling inwardly secure and supported. They stop emotionally worshipping lack. They begin carrying themselves with quiet confidence. They imagine opportunities unfolding in their favor. They feel gratitude before results fully appear. Slowly their thinking changes, their energy changes, their decisions change, and eventually their world begins changing as well. The difference is not effort alone. The difference is identity. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled means you mentally and emotionally become the version of yourself who already possesses the desired reality. If you desire love, you do not continue feeling abandoned or unwanted. You begin feeling cherished now. You begin thinking from the perspective of someone who is deeply valued. If you desire success, you stop rehearsing failure internally. You begin feeling capable, respected, and accomplished, even before external recognition arrives. If you desire peace, you stop emotionally living in chaos and begin entering the state of calm certainty. This does not mean denying present circumstances or pretending the outer world does not exist. It means refusing to let temporary appearances dictate your identity. Circumstances are only shadows of previous states of consciousness. They are not permanent truths unless you continue emotionally feeding them. Many people abandon their assumptions too quickly because they become discouraged when immediate evidence does not appear. They plant a seed inwardly, then dig it up daily through doubt and impatience. But all creation requires persistence. Just as a seed beneath the soil needs time before breaking through the surface, your inner assumptions need time to unfold into visible form. Your task is not to force reality. Your task is to remain faithful to the feeling. This is why imagination is so powerful. Imagination allows you to experience inwardly what has not yet appeared outwardly. Every night before sleep, when the mind becomes quiet and receptive, enter a scene that would naturally occur if your desire were already fulfilled. If you desire a loving relationship, imagine hearing someone tell you how happy they are with you. If you desire financial freedom, imagine paying bills effortlessly or hearing congratulations for your success. If you desire healing, imagine moving through life with strength and relief. Do not merely watch the scene as an observer. Enter into it fully. Feel its reality. Hear the sounds. Sense the atmosphere. Experience the emotional satisfaction of already being the person you long to become. The subconscious mind responds to vivid feeling. It accepts emotionally experienced imagination as reality and begins expressing it through life. At first, the new feeling may seem unnatural because you have spent years identifying with the opposite state. A person accustomed to insecurity may initially struggle to feel confident. A person accustomed to loneliness may struggle to feel loved. But persistence gradually makes the new state familiar. What once felt impossible begins feeling comfortable. What once felt imagined begins feeling natural. And once a feeling becomes natural, manifestation becomes inevitable. The outer world always mirrors the dominant state you occupy inwardly. If you constantly occupy the state of waiting, life keeps you waiting. If you constantly occupy the state of struggle, life continues presenting struggle. But if you occupy the state of fulfillment, life begins reflecting fulfillment. This is why your inner conversations matter so deeply. Throughout the day, people unknowingly reinforce old states through their thoughts and reactions. They say internally, "Nothing changes for me, I always fail," or "Things never work out." These statements are not harmless. They strengthen emotional identification with limitation. Instead, you must begin thinking from the fulfilled state. Ask yourself, how would I feel if my desire were already realized? Then practice returning to that feeling repeatedly until it becomes your emotional home. You do not need permission from the world to feel fulfilled now. You do not need visible evidence before you begin embodying the new state. Reality responds to consciousness, not desperation. The moment you truly assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you stop being merely a dreamer. You become a creator. And life begins moving in harmony with the state you have accepted as true within yourself. 103. If the greatest mistakes people make is allowing present circumstances to determine their emotional state, they look at temporary conditions and immediately surrender their inner peace to what they see. If money is low, they feel defeated. If delays appear, they feel hopeless. If relationships become difficult, they feel abandoned. Without realizing it, they emotionally attach themselves to appearances, and by reacting repeatedly in the same way, they continue recreating the very conditions they wish to escape. What you consistently feel becomes the foundation from which your life unfolds. This is why reacting emotionally to unfavorable circumstances keeps those circumstances alive. Every fearful reaction strengthens the old state. Every moment of hopelessness feeds the same pattern. Most people do not understand that circumstances are not the true cause of their lives. Circumstances are effects. They are reflections of previously accepted assumptions and emotional habits. The outer world is like a mirror. A mirror cannot change unless the image before it changes first. Yet most people spend their lives trying to fight the reflection while ignoring the inner state producing it. 3. They argue with appearances, fear appearances, and emotionally surrender to appearances. In doing so, they unknowingly remain loyal to the very reality they claim to dislike. Persistence in a new state is the key to transformation. You must learn to hold your inner conviction even when external conditions appear unchanged. This is not denial. It is discipline. It is understanding that the visible world is delayed. What you see today often reflects old thoughts, old feelings, and old assumptions. If you continue emotionally reacting to those old results, you keep impressing the same patterns upon the subconscious mind. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. You would not dig it up every morning to check whether it has grown. You understand that growth happens invisibly before it appears visibly. In the same way, every new assumption requires time to harden into fact. The unseen movement always comes first. But many people destroy their own manifestations through impatience. They imagine success for one moment, then spend the rest of the day doubting it. They affirm abundance briefly, then react emotionally to lack all afternoon. They feel hopeful at night, then wake up discouraged. By morning, their inner state constantly shifts back and forth, preventing the new assumption from taking root deeply. Persistence means remaining faithful to the new feeling regardless of appearances. If you desire abundance, you cannot continue emotionally living in poverty every day. Even if your present conditions are limited, you must begin cultivating the feeling of support, stability, and expectation of good. If you desire love, you cannot continue identifying as rejected or unworthy. You must persist in the feeling of being valued and chosen. If you desire peace, you cannot spend every moment mentally rehearsing fear and chaos. The outer world will often test your persistence. Circumstances may temporarily appear opposite to what you desire. Delays may happen. Old situations may reappear. But these moments are not signs of failure. They are opportunities to decide whether you will remain loyal to the old identity or continue embodying the new one. A person who truly understands this principle no longer becomes emotionally controlled by temporary appearances. They understand that reality is always shifting according to consciousness, instead of panicking when difficult. They arise, they return inwardly to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. They refuse to let fear dominate their emotional state. This is where true power begins. Most people are trained from childhood to react automatically to external conditions. They believe the world controls their emotions. But once you awaken to your creative power, you realize that your emotional state can exist independently of present circumstances. You can choose confidence before success appears. You can choose gratitude before blessings fully arrive. You can choose peace before the situation resolves itself. And strangely enough, it is this inner shift that begins transforming the outer world. Persistence does not mean forcing yourself into fake positivity every moment. It means gently returning to the chosen state whenever doubt appears. It means refusing to build a permanent home inside fear. Fear may visit the mind temporarily, but you do not allow it to define your identity. When anxious thoughts appear, do not feed them emotionally. Observe them and return again to the feeling you wish to embody. When circumstances seem discouraging, remind yourself that appearances are temporary reflections of old. Assumptions. When delays happen, continue trusting the unseen process unfolding beneath the surface. This inner steadiness gradually changes everything. Your subconscious mind responds to repetition. Whatever emotional state you repeatedly return to eventually becomes dominant. If you constantly rehearse defeat internally, defeat becomes natural. But if you repeatedly return to confidence, fulfillment, and certainty, those states slowly become your new identity. And once a state becomes natural, the outer world begins reorganizing around it. People often wonder why some individuals seem calm and certain even during difficult seasons of life. It is because they are no longer emotionally enslaved by appearances. They understand that conditions are temporary, but consciousness is creative. They know that remaining faithful inwardly eventually produces visible results outwardly. Persistence is not passive waiting, it is active inner alignment. Every day you are either reinforcing the old reality or strengthening the new one. Every reaction matters because every reaction feeds a state of consciousness. If you constantly complain, fear, and doubt, you strengthen limitation. If you consistently return to faith, gratitude, and fulfillment, you strengthen the reality you wish to experience. You must become selective about the emotional atmosphere you live in daily. Do not allow temporary setbacks to convince you that nothing is changing. Some of the greatest transformations happen invisibly long before they appear outwardly. Seeds grow in darkness before they rise into light. In the same way, your assumptions are taking root beneath the surface even when no evidence is visible yet. Remain faithful to the feeling. Persist in the new state. Because the reality you consistently occupy inwardly will eventually become the reality you experience outwardly. Everything that appears in your outer world first begins as an inner condition of consciousness. Before an event takes shape in physical reality, it exists as a feeling, an assumption, or a deeply accepted state within you. The life you experience is not random. It is not disconnected from your inner world. It is the visible echo of what you consistently feel inwardly. Whether you realize it or not, your dominant emotional state is constantly shaping your experiences, relationships, opportunities, and circumstances. Most people spend their lives focused entirely on external conditions while remaining unaware of the silent force operating within them. They attempt to change their world through struggle alone. never noticing that the outer world faithfully reflects the emotional atmosphere they continuously carry inside. If a person constantly feels insecure, life eventually presents situations that mirror insecurity. If a person consistently feels supported, capable, and worthy, life gradually reflects those states as well. This is why two people can experience the same environment differently. One sees obstacles everywhere, while another sees possibilities. One expects rejection, while another naturally expects acceptance. One anticipates failure, while another quietly assumes success. The difference is not always talent, luck, or circumstances. The difference is often the inner state from which they are living. Your feelings are not passive reactions to life. They are creative signals shaping your future experiences. Every emotion repeatedly entertained becomes an instruction impressed upon the subconscious mind. The subconscious then works continuously to organize reality and harmony. With those emotional impressions, this process happens whether the feelings are positive or negative. The subconscious does not judge what you feel. It simply accepts what feels true and begins expressing it outwardly. If you constantly feel unworthy of love, you may unconsciously push away healthy relationships or attract situations that reinforce rejection. If you constantly feel fearful about money, you may continue experiencing financial struggle even while working tirelessly. If you constantly feel grateful, confident, and secure, you begin making different decisions, attracting different opportunities, and responding to life from a completely different energy. The outer world eventually mirrors the state you most consistently occupy within yourself. This is why temporary thoughts are less powerful than repeated feelings. A passing moment of doubt does not shape destiny nearly as much as a deeply rooted emotional identity. What matters most is the state you repeatedly return to day after day. That repeated emotional pattern becomes your dominant vibration, your mental atmosphere, your inner home, and life faithfully reflects it back to you. Many people unknowingly live in emotional contradiction. They say they desire abundance while constantly feeling lack. They say they desire love while emotionally expecting disappointment. They say they desire peace while mentally rehearsing fear every day. Their conscious desires move in one direction while their dominant feelings move in another. The subconscious always follows the stronger emotional conviction. This is why changing your feelings changes your future. When you deliberately begin cultivating new emotional states, you interrupt old patterns and create new possibilities. The moment you stop identifying with fear and begin identifying with confidence, your life starts moving differently. The moment you stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and begin feeling empowered internally, reality slowly begins reorganizing itself around that shift. At first, the changes may seem subtle. Your thoughts become calmer. Your reactions become steadier. Your decisions become wiser. You begin noticing opportunities you previously ignored. You attract different kinds of people and experiences. Then eventually the outer world starts visibly reflecting the transformation that first happened within. Everything changes when your inner state changes. This is why guarding your inner conversations is so important. The words you repeatedly say to yourself carry emotional energy. When you constantly repeat thoughts such as nothing ever works out for me, or I'll probably fail, you reinforce those emotional patterns. Over time, they become accepted as truth within the subconscious mind. But when you begin speaking inwardly from a place of confidence and certainty, you start creating a different emotional foundation. The key is consistency. A single positive thought cannot overcome years of emotional conditioning overnight. But persistent inner alignment gradually reshapes identity. Every time you return to gratitude instead of fear, you strengthen a new state. Every time you choose faith over hopelessness, you weaken the old pattern. Every time you feel fulfilled before physical evidence appears, you move closer to embodying the reality you desire. Most people wait for the world to change before they allow themselves to feel differently. But the true creator learns to reverse this process. They understand that feeling comes first. They choose peace before conditions improve. They choose abundance before money appears. They choose confidence before recognition arrives. And because they consistently occupy those states inwardly, life eventually reflects them outwardly. This does not mean challenges will never appear. Temporary difficulties are part of life. But your dominant state determines whether those challenges control you or whether you rise above them. A person grounded in fear sees obstacles as proof of defeat. A person grounded in certainty sees obstacles as temporary movements within a larger unfolding process. Your feelings shape not only what you attract, but how you interpret and respond to life itself. When you truly understand this, you stop giving all power to external conditions. You stop believing that happiness, peace, or fulfillment must wait until circumstances become perfect. Instead, you begin creating those states within yourself now. And as you persist in those feelings, the outer world gradually rearranges itself to mirror them. Life is always responding to the version of yourself you most consistently feel yourself to be. If you feel powerless, life reflects limitation. If you feel blessed, supported, capable, and worthy, life begins. Reflecting those qualities back to you in countless visible and invisible ways. Your inner world is not separate from reality. Your inner world is the blueprint from which reality is formed.